Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, another day, another freaking ASIC. The very next day after that Dragon Ball announcement, we do have an RXD ASIC coming from IceRiver. This is the RX0. So we have the specs, we'll talk about it, we'll give our thoughts, we'll compare it to the Dragon Ball miner, which RIP to anybody who bought one of those things because you essentially got wrecked, right? So we'll talk about it, we'll give our thoughts, we'll look at profitability and such, and just talk about the outlook of it, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get to this thing. So it's going to be another kind of quick one. We already went through a lot of the info yesterday. The biggest value proposition with the Dragon Ball, that kind of, if you were to take the risk, obviously we're saying that that's a no-go. Number one of the big things we said as soon as they made that announcement, expect to see others. Did I expect one the very next day? No, that means IceRiver has been working on this extensively. So as soon as they saw this, that's why they decided to make that announcement, which is, again, what we've seen from them. They've done that recently. They're going to continue to. As soon as they have that reason to, they've been wrecking the competition. So sucks for anybody who ordered that A11, but that's why we're so against it, and that's why we're so critical on these like reviews and like comparing like whether or not it's worth buying, is because of stuff like this. I know it sounds pessimistic half the time, especially recently, but this is why. This is like a perfect example of why we look at it aggressively the way we do. Okay, so let's look at the specs on this new guy. So a lot of benefits here, right? And this is a huge benefit for Radiant, because this is the best way to fix that decentralization issue they're having, right? Is to have these little guys, only 399 bucks. Even if you want to just help Radiant decentralize that network for 400 bucks, not bad. For $11,000 or $10,000, whatever it is, way too freaking much. Okay, so this thing's coming in at 260 gigahash at 100 watts. We've seen the zeros, you know, it's the same form factor, same whole thing. That price, though, is what makes it extremely enticing, 399 bucks. Okay, so key takeaways, right, when we compare it to the Dragon Ball miner, just like we had kind of like we're thinking, is that it's very outdated already. Okay, so this first gen IceRiver is essentially twice as efficient. Even just easy math comparing it, this guy's 10K or 11K essentially shipped. Obviously, they're going to have to reduce that price to compete, but let's talk about as to why. So the RXD hash rate, which is the main benefit here, yes, it does do a lithium, but 1.2 terahash is what, 3 of the little AL0s, right? In reality, if you're buying this thing, it's for the Radiant aspect. Okay, so just 3.2 terahash. We eyeball this, guys, coming in at 260 gigahash. So let's do some easy math. It would be about 12 of the RX0s to equate that Dragon Ball ASIC. Okay, 12 of these would bring you to 3.12 terahash. The big difference being the wattage. This would only be at 1200 watts. Okay, and the price wise, 4,800 bucks. Okay, so you can make the argument for the lithium. You could add in the 3 AL0s and it would bring you to about 7 grand. But realistically, again, if you're buying this thing, it's for the Radiant aspect. Okay, so immediately right off the bat, this thing to be equivalently priced, 5 grand, but the fact that it's not as efficient needs to be cheaper, right? So at this point, honestly, for me, from the get-go, it's just been a no-go, right? Quality, I would give it to IceRiver, especially with these zeros. They've been very resilient. They've been holding up well. So again, this Dragon Ball ASIC wrecked. Okay, so now IceRiver did come in, and they did come in as expected, with being more aggressive with the price, aggressive with the efficiency, right? Just a better overall unit, right? There's not much to say here. And then the price point, $399. It's like, it's almost like a why not kind of thing, right? So it just kind of depends on what you're looking at. So the key thing here is that you can actually get 2 of these and be under the threshold for duties if you buy from IceRiver direct. So did experiment with the AL0. When I purchased mine from them, I purchased it without the PSU to make sure it was under the $800 limit, and it did not get hit with any tariffs. So that kind of gives more credence to that's probably about the limit. So realistically, if you order from IceRiver direct, could order potentially 2 of these without getting hit with those tariffs. The advantage could be like what we saw with the lithium. May it happen again? We don't know, but we did see that IceRiver Direct did ship theirs first before everybody else. Okay, so if it's a $10, $15, $20 difference, you still may be better off ordering from IceRiver, right? For anybody who's interested. So now in terms of profitability, okay, we'll do quick guesstimates, but again, now because of IceRiver jumping in, this kind of does change things. We're accounting for the hash rate to potentially double with, these little Dragon Ball units. Could potentially go up even more now, right? These Dragon Ball units, if nobody buys them, what do you think they're going to do with them? The same thing they've been doing this whole time. They're just going to fucking self-mine with them. Okay, so don't think that, oh, well, nobody's going to buy them, so this is going to dip down. If nobody buys them, they're just going to self-mine them. So to me, this hash rate is going to stay here. It might retrace for a bit, right, for the units that they ship out or whatever buys. But if people don't buy them, again, they're just going to be self-mining. Okay, so we were accounting for the hash rate to double with those Dragon Balls, so now expect it to potentially go up another big chunk because of these ice rivers. Okay, so that was the main value proposition potential with that Dragon Ball, is the fact that we may have a couple months without competition. That lasted not even 24 hours. So just keep that into account. So we'll run numbers and we'll do them like best case scenario, and you can kind of see why when you really look at the numbers, it just kind of depends on how bullish you are on RXD, right? So let's just take a quick look. As far as current profitability, remember this profitability is based on today's hash rate, which we know by the time you get this thing, it's not going to be that amount. Okay, we're going to give them the benefit of the doubt and only double the hash rate, right? Which again, realistically, it could triple, it can go well beyond that. Okay, but we'll look at the numbers based off of that, because even in my opinion, based off of that, it's not looking too hot. Okay, so currently it'd make about $9 a day. In terms of yield, right, which is what you got to focus on, currently 944 USD a day would get you about 8,000 RXD a day. Okay, so that's again current. Factor in hash rate doubles, your yield gets cut in half, and realistically it's going to go well beyond double, most likely. Okay, but again, benefit of the doubt. So two big factors we're giving them a huge benefit. Number one, we're only going to double the hash rate. Number two, we're going to base it off of this pump price they just had right now. Okay, it's up to 0.0011. So take those two things into account, because as we saw yesterday, it did pump and then did retrace back. So will the same thing happen again? Who knows? Maybe, maybe not. Maybe a 2-3x's from here tomorrow, right? We don't really know. We're just going to go by today's numbers, but just take that into account. That it's very possible that we may retrace on top of that. Okay. So again, going back to the original statement, we would get a currently again 8,000. So having it about 4,000 RXD a day. This is where it gets tricky, because if you were to purchase about $450 worth, it would net you about 387,000 RXD. Okay, so let's take a calculator and let's do some quick, easy napkin math. Okay, so 387. We're going to divide it by the about 4,000 you'd get a day. And this is about how many days to break even. So about 100 days, right? So definitely a lot better than Dragon Ball unit. The downfall is, again, this is just not going to be a very realistic number, right? It's very possible that it's going to go up 2.5x, 3x, potentially 4x. Because again, IceRiver does do a much better job at shipping units, right? They've been definitely working on their production, their manufacturing. To what extent, again, we just have no idea. And then specifically at this price point at $3.99, I think a lot of people are going to buy it just to buy it. If anybody's a supporter of lithium in any capacity, they're going to buy it just to even support the network. Because again, even just at that aspect, freaking $400, only 100 watts to run this thing, not a bad deal, right? But again, my beef would be just the amount of revenue yield, and just because of RXD's current price, right? A lot of it just has to do with the fact that it's dumped so hard. It does have a lot of potential upside. So again, going on CoinGecko, which is again more accurate for these smaller market cap coins. Okay, we used the coin market cap yesterday, but realistically for these smaller coins, use CoinGecko because it's more accurate. Okay. So market cap did go up a little bit just because it did pump. It's up to 13 million, but again, still rank number 1124. So there is still upside. There is still the potential for the same sentiment as with the others, where you could potentially flip, because again, it's not going to take much liquidity to pump this thing to give it a 2, 3, 4, 5x, which I wouldn't be surprised if that happens, coming from either IceRiver or Dragon Ball themselves to try to flip some of these units. Will it happen? Won't it happen? We don't know. It's pure speculation. But a lot of this is just going to have to do with how bullish you are on RXD. Do you think it's really going to peak? Do you think in the next 3-4 months there's potential where it doesn't just do a 2-3x, it does a 4-5-6-7x in that short time frame? Again, the time frame we've seen with these zeros, basing it off of the Caspa units, it was every 6 months. So realistically, if you're going to go into the mindset, well, maybe I'll just get it, get that yield, and then flip it, there's that potential if, again, in the short term, if you think it can do that. And realistically, it's possible. Is it one that I would realistically get based on pure profitability and my opinion of RXD? Again, don't base things off of my opinion, though. Do your own research, see how you feel about the project. Where do you think they'll land? Right? Just my personal opinion of it. I don't see it having the potential of something where it's going to crack like the top 100 or even better, or something along the lines of like where Alephium is. Okay, in my opinion, Alephium could have that potential. Okay, so that's kind of where the differentiation is between, like, for example, this guy and the AL0. I'm just more bullish on Alephium. It really just comes down to that. But if you feel the opposite, if you feel more bullish on Radiant, then it's kind of the same value proposition, but at the same time, not really. Why? Because of the daily emissions, right? The market cap is so low, the price has tanked so aggressively that in reality, it's just gonna potentially make more sense to buy the coin, right? Especially because it's at its current prices. But again, in 2-3 months, if Radiant does do a 5-6x, the value proposition changes completely, right? So it kind of just depends. But again, for me, if I'm going to purchase an ASIC, it's going to be on a coin that I feel will do well, that I am bullish on for the bull market. Okay, so it's not just going to be go for profitability and go with this one. It has to be a coin that has potential, right? Because realistically, like we've mentioned, that's like the #1 question I get. Which ASIC do you think is going to perform best? It's going to be the ASIC that mines the coin that appreciates the most. Okay, so if it's a coin that I don't think is going to necessarily appreciate a ton, or doesn't have the greatest emissions, or it's extremely cheap to buy like it is in this case, may not be the one, right? So that's why I like Caspa is a big one I'm into. Alephium now, just because, again, Caspa proved itself. It is way up there, which is why we've been mining and stacking it for the past 2 years, and same with Alephium. Okay, Radiant, I did stack actually also for the past almost the same time frame, right? Reason being is I just had hardware that was able to take advantage of it. Had that little M2 FPGA, the Osprey FPGA, as well as GPU mining it. So I did stack a whole bunch, but my opinion just changed with what happened, right? So I'm not going to get into that again. That's just my personal opinion of it and the way I view it. Don't let that sway you. Do your research, see how you feel about it. Okay, but so the same dynamics do kind of stand, that if you feel there's potential to flip, or again, if you want to support the network, again, $400, 100 watts, in reality, it's almost a why not kind of thing. But as far as doing something where I'd purchase multiple units or wait for the bigger unit, it's hard to say. You could also make the argument, oh, wait for the mid-tier unit, and that might be a possibility, right? Realistically, like, this is one where, just because, again, this one doesn't mean that I would say, oh no, I'm not going to buy any Radiant ASIC. It's just, to me, the value prop, like with this one specifically, I really would wait for a bigger unit. Okay, just because, again, the name of the game is getting yield early before the hash rate and difficulty goes up massively. So in this case, especially if the price doesn't keep up with the hash rate. Okay, so these things are going to ship mid to late September. So sometime by like mid-October, they're going to be in hand. Whatever hash rate effects initially happen are going to happen by then. If if a Radiant's price doesn't go up significantly, not just, 20%, they're like, if it doesn't do a 2, 3, 4x, may look a little bit grimish in terms of profitability. And then at that point, if they do release a bigger ASIC, the price may reflect that, and then at that point it may be worth getting it, right? So it's gonna have to time the market, but realistically, again, for your pure profit point, I would be just buying the coin, right? Especially if it retraces. Again, like we mentioned, look at this pump that just happened. Okay, factor that in, that's its current price. If it goes back down to here, even the dynamics we're talking about right now drastically change. Okay, so might be worth waiting for a little dumpski and then jumping in, because again, Dragon Ball is the entity. They just got effed. Will they just be like, oh, screw it, we're gonna self-mine and just start dumping the Radiant because they just got screwed over by IceRiver? Potentially. Could we see a temporary dump in the market because of that? Potentially. Would I bank on that though? No, right? Realistically, again, they made that investment. They potentially stacked a shit ton of Radiant, so would it make more sense for them to just hang on to it and dump it in the bull market? But who knows what they do, right? At the end of the day, they're going to have bills to pay. They're not going to get the expected revenue they're going to get because the Icy boys just F them, right? So a lot of factors at play here, but realistically, this is one I would probably just purchase the coin if that. If I was bullish on it, realistically, again, it's just not one I'm super bullish on. If it retraces back down to these ranges, then sure, because now that IceRiver's in, could be reason enough for Bitmain to jump in. I know the argument's going to be, because I've heard this for the longest, is that, oh no, they're going to wait for a bigger market cap coin. Well, then explain Handshake and the HS3, right? Realistically, and in my opinion, they're going to go after an algo that's going to wreck other manufacturers, right? We saw that with Gold Shell. Literally, they went one by one all of 2023 to just kill Gold Shell, right? I would expect them to do the same thing here. If they see IceRiver release theirs, what else do you think is going to happen? Gold Shell is going to release one. And if they're able to release a more efficient one over time, especially if Radiant does pump over these next few months, I wouldn't be surprised to see it come out, even if Radiant's market cap is still like number 700, 800 or something like that, even after a little pump, right? I just wouldn't be surprised just to try to wreck the other manufacturers, which, as we've seen though, these damn Icy boys, they know how to price, so it may not work in their favor. Will they likely wreck a potential Gold Shell, which, again, they're always behind on the times? Probably, right? But it's, again, this is all a strategy game. It's all risk to reward, and it just depends on the speculation aspect if you think it's going to do well, right? And to what extent of well, right? So, like, for me, again, personally, it's just not one I'm not super bullish on as far as making it drastically up there. But again, it doesn't need to be some crazy coin for it to do well. Even if it's just the mid-tier coin its whole life, where it's only in the top 300 to 500, still a lot of potential upside here. Okay, and even more so if you do believe that they are going to crack the top 200 or top 100 or something of that sort, right? I'm just not in that camp personally, right? So you have to weigh in all those things. But again, at 400 bucks, it's kind of almost like a why not kind of thing, right? Similar thing to like what we're doing with the L0, just stacking some. But again, if this price dumps though, then even at this current little pumpy price, it's still kind of worth it. Just consider everything that happened with the entity, because even when I dumped mine, this was back here, it was like the 23rd. I mean, it still needs to do a 2x just to reach that point, okay? And that's a long way to go, because yes, I dumped mine at the time. I was like, ah, man, this sucks, but I was just like, I want to get out, right? And even at this point, if I were to buy back in, even at this little pump, still 2x what I sold it at, right? So it's risk to reward. If it dumps again, would I probably buy some? Sure, because again, very likely the manufacturers will pump it at some point. Will it be now? Will it be later? Who knows? But again, they want to sell these ASICs. That is the easiest way, especially on these small market cap coins where it doesn't take a whole lot to pump the hell out of the price. Okay, so strategy involved, risk to reward, but from a pure profit standpoint, because of the small market caps, small daily emissions, a lot of potential sell pressure. Because understand, we don't know what Dragon Ball was doing. Were they hodling all these coins, or were they dumping them over time? Like, realistically, I'd be more bullish if we found out, if somebody was able to cyber sleuth and see that they were actually dumping in real time on a daily basis or something. But if they hodled all these freaking coins, I would be more weary of that, right? Because at this point, they were able to build up a little stash. If they did, again, we don't really know, but those are just things to factor in, right? So kind of crazy, bros, and it just, again, did not expect it to be this quick, right? So we're gonna pour one out today for anybody who purchased that Dragon Ball, which you crazy bastards, but this guy is much more efficient, and again, realistically, $3.99, it's almost, again, at this price, it's like a why not kind of thing. And as a matter of fact, this is a really good thing just to even help Radiant, right? At the end of the day, regardless of your opinion of them, I may purchase one just to help out decentralize the network, right? At this point, they definitely need the help. Regardless of what your opinion is, we want to see all proof of work projects succeed, especially the ones who are trying to do the right thing, who are building, who are doing that, right? Who are not rug pulls and not trying to scam the community. So let me know in the comments, guys, what are you guys doing? Did you guys buy one already? Are you kind of on the fence? I mean, the $399, it's almost, again, it's almost like a why not kind of thing, right? Let me know in the comments what you guys think, though. Are you guys kind of the same boat? Am I gonna buy one? I'm gonna wait to see what the resellers listed at. Again, if it's lower than this, if it's like $375, sure, almost like why not kind of thing, right? Just freaking throw it on the shelf, let it stack for a year. Again, at 100 watts, it's gonna be quite a while before it's fully unprofitable. And again, it does have that pump potential. It does have a lot of multiple X's. Maybe not so in the short term, but sometime in 2025, sure, right? Easily has the potential for 10, 15, 20X. Will it, won't it? We don't know. But again, 400 bucks, not too bad. But again, guys, let me know in the comments what you guys think. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. Thank you for watching. I really do appreciate it. And I am out.